This has got to be the biggest cooler test on all of the interwebs. 54 coolers, can you believe it? They're all over my yard. They're here, they're here, they're here, and they're over there. I thought the first big cooler ice challenge I did was big with 28 coolers, and then I did one with 38, and now we've bested that by 15 more, and we've got 54, 16 more.
Gear up and get outside.
And boy is it hot. It is 100 degrees outside today, and it's supposed to remain hot all week long while I'm doing this test. I had 1 ton of ice delivered to my house, so that is a literal ton of ice. I gotta get to work before it melts. Over 2,000 pounds actually. The driver had no idea what was going on. He said he never had a delivery at a house like this, and he was like, what in the world are you doing? Well, let me show you what I'm doing. I filled up each of these coolers approximately 2/3 of the way with ice. Now, this is not a perfect scientific test. I'm just a dude with a bunch of coolers, so don't hate me if I didn't do it perfectly. It's a lot of work for one guy in a day. I can tell you what, I am sweating my tuchus off. In each cooler, I also put 2 soda cans and 1 individually wrapped hot dog. You'll see what that's for in a minute. We've got coolers ranging in size from 20 quarts up to 75 quarts. So one thing I'm gonna do different this time that I haven't done on past tests is I'm going to categorize them by size. All the 20-ish quart coolers are gonna be the small group. There's only a few of them. And then anything that's 45 up to, but not including 60 quarts, will be classified as a medium cooler. And then anything 60 quarts or above, so up to 75, I'll call a large cooler. And we'll rank them overall, but we'll also rank them by size category. You'll notice some of them are totally shaded right now, and some of them have some filtered sunlight, and that is the case for all of them. My yard is not big enough or perfectly shaded enough to have an exactly uniform test for all coolers. Sorry guys, this is just sort of a real world backyard thing, not some scientific lab. But they all will see some filtered sunlight at some point in the day. But for the most part, they'll be shaded. So hopefully color won't have a major impact on the results. The point of this test is simple. See how long each cooler holds ice, but I'm also going to take a set of observations for each cooler each day to have a more analytical approach and some more meaningful results. You'll also see some of the winners from previous seasons like the Maluna, the Orion, and the Cabela's Polar Ice Cap. We also have some very interesting and unique coolers appearing this year, including the Air Skirts, which is an inflatable cooler like an SUP board. Then we have the Cool with a Q, which came all the way from Germany, and that just might be the most unique cooler I have seen yet. For a complete list of coolers in this test, see the list here. Any cooler with an asterisk next to it means that the company or somebody gave that to us for free to test. No strings attached, so we can say and do what we want, but I thought you ought to know. We paid for the rest of them out of pocket, and we have spent thousands of dollars on coolers. We got a lot of waiting for ice to melt to do, so let's get to it. It is day 2. It has been 24 hours since this began. I've got the tools of the trade, and let me tell you how this is gonna go. I will open each cooler once per day, and I will take a set of 4 observations. The first observation is ice present? There is ice, so it gets a point. I will also take the temperature with an infrared thermometer of the top of the lid. It's 39 degrees here. That's very cold, by the way. I'm looking for at or below 50 degrees for that observation. I will also look and see if there is soda sitting on top of the ice, not sunk down in it, not bobbing in the water, but on top. And lastly, I will use this meat thermometer to take the temperature of the hot dog. I'll just poke it in there, and I'm looking for a temperature at or below 40 degrees, which is the food safe temperature according to the FDA. Once those 4 observations have been taken, I will close the cooler and I will close the latches. I try to make these observations as quickly as possible to keep the lids open for as little as possible. And that's sort of real world anyway, opening and closing your cooler. So I know it's not a perfectly sealed test, but we don't use them in a perfectly scientific way when we're out camping, right? The fact is there are tons of variables that affect ice retention in a cooler. You can't control all of them, but I'm doing the best I can to treat all of these coolers the same. Each observation is pass or fail, and the cooler can get 1 point for each day. That's a total of up to 4 points per day per cooler. As soon as a cooler gets 0 points in one day, then it's out. It's done. It's over for that cooler, and we proceed each day with the remaining coolers. We will continue until no coolers have any ice left and all coolers have 0 chill points in one day. Then we will crown our winners. Just for kicks, I threw in a couple old school coolers like my grandpa's old igloo. And I literally mean my grandpa's old igloo. This was probably 40 or 50 years old. Even more old school is just a classic little styrofoam cooler. I thought that would be interesting as a control. It's day 4 and it is hot, 95 degrees today. It was over 100 yesterday. That may seem like Christmas in Arizona, but boy, is that hot for Idaho. This little Air Skirts guy that I was pretty excited about ran out of ice yesterday, after only 1.5 days or so. Basically, by 2 full days, the ice was gone. You know, I'm not entirely surprised because this is not designed to be used like any other cooler. Now, the other one that may not surprise you is the little styrofoam cooler. So it is also out of the running. But what might surprise you is that it still got 1 point yesterday because when I checked it, that hot dog was still below 40 degrees. That hot dog point is often the last one to get a 0. But it's pretty cool that just a little cheap styrofoam gas station cooler lasted as long as it did, right? The other main thing we've been seeing, starting yesterday with some coolers, is those cans of soda are just bobbing in the water. Once they're more than 50% of the way in the water like that, or like that, they lose the point. But most of the coolers are that way now today. Another change we started seeing today is some coolers like Grandpa's Old Igloo or this Coleman vintage cooler, the lids are no longer getting below 50 degrees. The more that ice recedes and diminishes, the warmer it gets up higher in the cooler. It is day 5. We're seeing some movement, folks. The big news is the Arctic 22 quart is out. So our first legitimate cooler is out of the running, but it's not the only one today. However, before we get to the other losers, just check out this oyster. It's still going pretty darn strong, and even that lid was below 50 degrees. Status quo today is that most coolers are still getting 3 out of 4 points, including these 4 here. However, both the Solo and the Yeti Roti 48 only got 2 out of 4 points because not only are those sodas bobbing, but the lid was above 50 degrees. While the Yeti still looks pretty good on ice, I think the reason its lid is above 50 is because these are deeper. And so that distance between the ice and the lid is greater than in most coolers. And I suppose that's enough to make a difference. The sad news today is Grandpa's Old Igloo is out. Womp womp. Most of them look like this. However, this new Coleman Pro looks okay on ice. Hot dog's still cold, but that lid is above 50. And it's not alone today either. We're seeing a lot of those today. And you can't really say it's environment because it's right next to 2 coolers that are doing a point better. Igloo Marine is out. And so is its close friend and neighbor, or foe rather, the Coleman Classic. Okay, it is day 6. That means 5 full days have passed. We came into the day with 6 coolers out of the running, which left us with 48 total, including all 4 Yetis. Today, the Coho is totally out of ice. This little group surprised me and it kind of threw me off. Today is a cooler day. It cooled off to the high 80s, mid-high 80s, so about 10 degree drop since yesterday. And I think that gave these an advantage because these 3 coolers here, they only got 1 point. The point it got, strangely enough, was the lid temperature. Let's see if it's still at, so okay, it's right at 50 now. But in my book, that's good enough to give it the point. As you can see, it's out of ice. And I don't remember that ever happening in any of the other cooler tests I've done before. But I've seen that multiple times today. This Iceland 45, the Rover Roller 45, the Polar Bear 45, and even the Solo Wind Chill 47 all had the same phenomenon today. The Rugged Road, however, was totally out, 0 points. The actual temperature of the lid and the water inside and even the hot dog was colder in this Polar Bear than these others. To my surprise, the Cordova is also out of the running today. Look at that, totally out of ice and 0 chill points. It didn't do as well this year as it has in the past. But the Bison and the newcomer Patriot are still in the running with 3 points. The Pelican, however, is not. It is totally out. And that tracks with past performance. The Pelican has always been below average for ice retention compared to other coolers in its class, based on the tests I've done. This fun-looking Stanley one, also totally out. Grandpa's Igloo is already out, but today, the vintage Coleman joins it. Sadly, these 2 right here, the Icy Tech and the Taiga, also totally out. 0 points, no ice. And check out this Coleman Pro. Barely a few cubes, so it's still got the point, but guaranteed it's done tomorrow. 6 days have passed now. It is day 7 of this ice challenge, and things have really taken a turn today. The Patriot is out. The Frosted Frog Ultralight is out. The K2 is out. To my surprise, the Lifetime is out, although the temperatures were a little colder, but still 0 points. The Coleman Pro out. The Brewmate out, also surprised me. The Angle Ultralight out. Now the 2 blue coolers are actually also out of ice, but in a baffling phenomenon I've never seen before, they still got 2 points. They got the point for having the lid at or below 50 and for having the hot dog at or below 40. So that is really surprising, really different, but I'm leaving them closed just to see how long it can hold those cold temps, even without ice. The guide gear got 1 point, but it's out of ice. And we have our first Yetis drop out. This surprised me a little bit too, but the Yeti Roti 60 is out, even though the Roti 48 is still in. The Yeti Tundra Hall, also totally out of ice. The Angle High Performance is out. The Hog is out. The Arctic Ultra Tough is out, and even the crowd favorites, the Ninja Frostvault and the Cater Gator, are both out of ice. Look at that. Totally gone. 0 points for the day on both of these. One thing I did want to check, though, on this Frostvault is what it looks like inside the drawer. So let's just shoot in there. 46, that's still pretty cold. That's really not too bad. That's impressive. Let's just test that hot dog. The hot dog above was above 40, and it looks like this one is too. So the Ninja Frostvault seems to have done above average, but still not up there with the best ice retention performers. The other Frosted Frog, the Rotomolded one, is also out of ice today, as are our 3 remaining big kahunas, the Hooked, the Iceland, and the Magellan, although I can tell you that the temperatures of the water and the hot dog were coldest in the Magellan, and then next coldest in the Iceland. The Hooked was a little warmer, which all that really tells you is which one is getting just a little bit more ice retention, but we're talking hours or minutes, not a ton of time. 10 coolers that have a shot at lasting a full week with ice. We've got the last 2 years' winners, the Maluna and the Orion. The Yeti Tundra 65 is still in the running. It's got ice, but not a whole lot, but it's still in there. We compare that to something like the Maluna, substantially more ice in here. Our Techni Ice from Australia is still in the running. The Cabela's has also been a top finisher in the past, and it's still in. Those are all large-sized coolers, but there's still some medium and small ones in the running, so size doesn't always matter. For example, we have the Yeti Roti 48 and the Arctic Ultralight 52 quart without wheels. Then we have back here, we have the Bison. It is day 8. A full week has passed since we began this ice retention challenge. A lot has changed today. The Yeti Roti 48, also in a quick turn of events, is out of ice. The Arctic Ultralight, also out today. These are 2 of our consistent performers in all the tests I've done. These 2 right here. And they're both out. Just shy of 1 week. I mean, just shy. Here's the Bison, also an impressive performer. Also out of the running. The Techni Ice from Australia. This one was a little cooler than the others, but it still didn't get any points. So sad. And here we have the Yeti Tundra 65, which made it longer this time than in the past, but today it is out. And if you've watched any previous videos, do you recognize these 3? These guys are always showing up, man. Let's take a look inside the Cabela's. Still has ice. I can tell you it is still below temperature, as is the hot dog. Here we have the Orion. It, however, is out of ice, but interestingly, it's still got 2 points. Look at that. That's below temperature by quite a bit. So my guess is only in the last few hours has it run out of ice. And if we look at the temperature of that hot dog, it's also well below 40. Just that water is under 40 degrees. And lastly, we have the Maluna, last year's champion. Let's check inside. Look at all that ice. Dang. I kind of hate reruns, but that might be what we're seeing this year. Out of 54 coolers, only 3 made it a full week with ice. We have the Cool, we have the Cabela's, and we have the Maluna. It has now been 8 full days since we began this cooler test, and lucky for you, my neighbor's playing the drums, so you get to hear a little bit of that in the background. Starting with the Cabela's. Ooh, I don't see any ice in there. Check the temperature of that lid. Yep, that's above 50, but not too much. Chance I could get the hot dog point. Not looking good. Nope, 0 points for the Cabela's. It's out. The former champion and the new rival. These are 2 very different coolers. This is interesting. Oh my gosh, look at that. I don't know if you can see that. There is ice. It's a trace of ice, but that is ice, my friends. Oh, I gotta do this right away. And look at that. That is still at 43. Holy cow, man. I am impressed by this cooler. Okay, let's close that up, see if it stands a chance at another day. All right, looking at the Cool now. Now it's kind of awkward to open this because I have to get it turned over real quick. 39. Holy cow. And obviously still so much ice. I mean, there's no sense in even measuring that. That's definitely under 40. I mean, geez, it doesn't look like this one is going to finish anytime soon. But the Maluna is going to be done tomorrow, so I think we know who our winner is. Okay, I just got back from vacation. I had to leave after 9 days, so it has now been 13 days since I first put ice in this cooler, and I'm pretty curious if it's still in there. Oh, it is out of ice. I'm just going to look at the thermometer data inside there, see if I can figure out when it ran out. It's pretty obvious in the temperature data, actually. Okay, I see the bump. That means it made it 10 full days with ice. Finally, we have reached the end of our ice retention challenge. The best overall was the Cool Box Eco Plus that we imported from Germany. It dominated the entire challenge, scored way more chill points than any other ice chest, and held ice for more than 10 days, which blows my mind because it's black and it's not even that big. This cooler is different from any other I've ever seen. Rather than a hard plastic shell, it's made of expanded polypropylene. While that makes its ability to insulate unmatched, it's unlikely to survive a fall from my tailgate or a midnight encounter with a bear. The Cool Box would be my first choice if I were transporting live organs between hospitals, but it wouldn't be my top pick for an extended campout. Rather, I'd take this year's second place winner and last year's champion, the Maluna 70-quart cooler. Rotomolded, bear-tested, and tough as heck, it lasted a full 8 days with ice in hot summertime temperatures. This US-made ice chest will get me through a week in the backcountry without concern, and it even comes with a lifetime warranty. As you know, the Maluna lasted longest among the large coolers. I credit the design, where there's more insulation up top than on bottom, and that freezer-style gasket is no joke.